Welcome to Season 2 of the Pints and Perspectives podcast hosted by WellHouse Church. This show understands that there is quite a bit of diversity amongst the body of Christ. So we operate according to the motto that certain things are fixed, like the essentials of faith, and the best beer is served on tap, while everything else is just a matter of perspective. What's cracking, beer lovers?
What up? How we doing?
Hope all is well. We are back again to talk about some more Ecclesiology stuff. But first, we got some beers with some stories.
Some beers with some stories. Clayton, do you want story time?
I will take story time. So we have a friend that lives in San Antonio. She just bought a house there, and so we were up visiting.
Baylor alum.
Baylor alum. My friend Ashley Elliott, I've known her for a long time. And we went up to visit her. And we went to this bar on the Riverwalk.
Yeah, what was it called?
I am drawing a blank. It starts with an E. The Esquire.
Oh, the Esquire. That's right.
The oldest bar in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And
it's a dope vibe. It's a nice cocktail bar, too.
It's a really nice cocktail. It is apparently the cocktail bar
on the
in San Antonio.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
So, of course, knowing me, I get a cocktail.
Yeah.
Cullen gets a beer.
And I also got a whiskey.
He got a Buffalo Trace on the rocks. That's right. But he orders this beer.
Yeah.
Talk about your beer.
Okay, so it was just on the menu, and I was kind of frustrated. Like, their menu wasn't laid out the best. It was really busy. There was a lot of options. It was not very communicative. So finally, I just asked the dude. I was like, hey, I want a local brew. What do you have that's like an IPA? And he's like, well, I got this hazy, the Viva.
We all love hazies.
The El Nino. And, yeah, I mean, look. Cat's out of the bag. Hops, cannabis, cousins, your boy, an aficionado. Here we go. And so I was like, yeah, love a hazy. Let's go. And obviously it's a nice bar, so they bring it out and pour it in a glass. And it has this beautiful, like, vibrant yellow color to it.
I was going to call it golden.
Yeah. Like, it's a shade of blonde, yellow, ale color, but it is vibrant.
Oh, it's beautiful. With a crisp white head.
Crisp white head and aromatics for days.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what is this? And so I smell it. I taste it. We pass it around the table. Everybody has a taste. And
we all love it. Everyone at the table.
Yeah, I think the exact word out of my mouth was, that is fucking delicious. And I still feel that way today.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's great beer.
And so we get online and we start looking it up. Unfortunately, it's this very small brewery, and I think it's called Viva. Viva Brewing, and it's San Antonio Brewery. It definitely has some kind of Latin American tie from what I could tell. And you can only buy it in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And it's extremely difficult to get your hands on.
I had to find it in an HEB in San Antonio.
And I frequent lots of HEBs that are known for their beer selections all over Houston.
You can only find it in HEBs in San Antonio.
In San Antonio. And bars in San Antonio.
It's like the family business beer company.
Family business beer company just outside of Austin.
You can only find their beer in HEBs in and around Austin.
Yeah. Which Houston has some of those breweries as well.
We do.
Yeah.
But that's why this is so much fun, because we cannot get this regularly.
Nope.
And I had to buy them in 6-packs.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way the HEB sold them.
Right.
And these are the last two that we have.
Yep.
From Viva.
So
until I go back.
Yeah, until we go back and get to try some other stuff.
I will be buying more.
So I have the El Nino. It's a hazy IPA. This is the one I had at the bar. It's 5.8 ABV, 52 IBUs, and then it says 100% delicious. This is the descriptor of it. Just like the weather phenomenon, our El Nino is a cool burst of refreshing tropical and citrusy flavors, the perfect balance of aroma, flavor, and bitterness to complement this unique hazy IPA. I can confidently say that is a great description of this beer.
So that sounds fantastic. And it is fantastic. It's a great beer. It is a good description of the beer. I have the Bear Bock beer. So Bear, if you don't know, is as in Bear County, which is the city in which San Antonio, or the county in which San Antonio is in. And Bear is spelled Bexar. So this is...
Some people not from here call it Bizarre County. I don't know why they get a Z sound, but yeah, Bizarre County.
Yeah, I didn't know that until recently. But yeah, apparently that's a thing. I have no information on the can about it other than it is 12 fluid ounces, 4.8 ABV, proudly brewed in Austin, Texas.
What?
I just read that on the can, proudly brewed in Austin, Texas.
Oh, mine says carefully brewed for Viva in Austin, Texas.
Oh, so they must be sourcing.
They have to be sourcing their recipes, and that's why they're such a small operation.
Because it also says
established in San Antonio. They've got to be sourcing. Something must have happened.
They're a San Antonio company, but they're sourcing from a brewery in Austin. And we just don't know which one it is. 99% of the time, it tastes delicious every time.
99% of the time, it tastes delicious every time.
And I've drank plenty of this beer at this point. I've had 5 out of the 6-pack. It's a great beer. It's a great bock.
Well, cheers, buddy.
Cheers, man.
So crisp. I don't even know what to say more about it. It's fucking delicious. I don't know what to say. It's so good.
It's a great beer.
It's getting an 8 from me. It's like
8.
It's like, yeah, it's at least 8.1. Yet to be decided if it increases. But
yeah, I feel you.
I mean, it's so good. I don't know. If you are anywhere near San Antonio, Texas,
You got to try it.
and you like IPAs, even if you don't like hazies, please try to get your hands on this. It is so good.
Even if you just frequent San Antonio.
Yeah,
just try it.
Yeah, 8.4. 8.4 locked in.
It's such a good beer.
Yeah.
Mine is hard. It is a great beer. Like, don't get me wrong. It is a great beer. But it is a bock from a Texas brewery. Cullen, what is the go-to bock?
Shiner Bock.
Shiner Bock.
Spotzelbock.
Shiner Bock.
Yep.
It hard to beat. Hard to beat.
Yep.
They come close.
Golly. That's saying something.
They come
most
real close.
bocks, especially Texas bocks, are too sweet.
Yep. It reminds me a lot of Ziegenbock.
Like just a good German style bock.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Ziegenbock in that it is just a solid German style bock that is not too sweet.
I don't think I had one of those.
You didn't. You did not.
Yeah. You're right. I don't think I had one of those.
No, you have not had one of these yet. Sorry, this is the last one, but
you good. I mean, we'll find our way back to San Antonio for something someday.
I'm sure. But it's a great bock.
Yep. Are you gonna score it?
Oh, it's so hard, man.
I mean, you don't have to, I guess.
7.5.
Okay.
Just like out of all the boxes.
What would you rate Shiner? The Spotzelbach.
8.5 maybe. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it really, I mean, it's just so good.
It's so good. It's always
so good.
like just, and there's an emotional connection to that beer. You know, how is there not?
I mean, why? Just because it was our label and we drank it for everything for a very long time?
Yes.
Okay. So, I don't know if I'd say emotional. I'd say historic connections.
No, I would call it emotional.
Like nostalgic? Or
Yes.
Like, okay.
I drink Shiner Bock. I remember being 18 years old working at a grocery store.
And coming home after work drinking Shiner Bock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
It do be like that sometimes.
That's what I remember. I understand I was not old enough to drink beer, but get off your high horse. We all drank beer.
He'd also already lived in Europe.
I had also already lived in Europe.
And lived where it was legal. Like, yeah, that ain't no thing.
Anyways, time to talk some theology.
Yeah, so we're going to have a fun conversation today. I don't know if it's fun. We're talking about high church and low church.
Very technical conversation.
I mean, is it really technical? It's kind of just a dividing line.
Of which comes with technicalities.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to try to explain those?
Not really. I'm not going to do a good job.
Okay. Yeah, so high church and low church. What that means is, excuse me. What that means is certain traditions end up preferring certain things over other things. Maybe say certain traditions end up prioritizing certain things over other things. And the way in which they prioritize those has come to be known as high church and low church. High church are the people that robe up, sit in pews, have a strict liturgy, and are sacramental. Clayton,
Yes.
What does it mean to be sacramental?
It means to put very high value on the sacraments, I guess. Like, I don't know another way to word that other than, like, these are the people that typically take communion every Sunday, take baptism real serious. Marriage, also a real big thing. Ordination, another big thing.
The Catholic Church has 7 sacraments. I can't remember them all. Let's see if they record
baptism. We've named a bunch of them: baptism, marriage, the Eucharist.
Oh, here we go. They do. In time, this is what Ben and Randy say. In time, Catholics restricted the number to 7 sacraments, which were delivered through the ministry of the church. Important rites of passage are marked by sacraments: birth, or baptism; adulthood, which is confirmation; marriage; celibacy, or a gift supporting ordination; death, which is unction; and then Eucharist and confession or penance.
Yeah.
So those are the sacraments. And high church ends up being anything that looks like the Catholic Church.
Yeah, kind of.
So high church traditions end up being things like Anglicans, Episcopalians, Presbyterians. There are even lots of Baptists that are high church. If you're
Methodists are kind of
Methodists are definitely high church. Well, some Methodists.
Some Lutherans also.
No, all Lutherans.
Or all Lutherans
are
would be
high church. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they definitely have a sacramental view.
Yeah.
And so what does that actually end up meaning? Well, what it means is one's more formal and one's not.
Yeah, kind of.
Is basically what that means. There's lots of reasons for why they get there. One of the things, and maybe the defining thing that gets you there, because everybody wants to make a distinction. It's like sacraments and liturgy. Those are the two things that differentiate high church and low church. It's like, well, that's not really true, because everybody has liturgy.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has a very strict liturgy. Try to go to a Baptist church and take out that special music. Golly.
Try to take the hymnals out the back of the pew and see what happens.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a part of liturgy, but yeah.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It's having
It's
the missal in
what
front of
you do and how you do it.
Yeah. For Catholics, it would be having the missal in the front of the pew.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Try to put a screen up and a projector. Like,
or try to take it down.
try to change the preferred translation of the Pew Bible.
Ooh.
Everybody got liturgy. The difference is low church people just don't call it that. They call it order of service. That's literally the only difference. Everybody got liturgy, though.
Everybody got
a way they do it. Everybody does one song. You know, even low church people, it's one song, greet your neighbor, 3 worship songs, preach for 45 minutes with the closing song.
I'm going to pick on low church for a minute, which we are also low church, just FYI.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
okay.
technically,
In our orthopraxy, in the way in which we function, we are low church.
Yes.
In our orthodoxy, in our beliefs, we are far from low church.
yes, agreed.
So everybody wants to make this distinction between liturgy and sacrament. But everybody has a liturgy.
Mm-hmm.
And so what really ends up happening is the sacraments end up being the thing that dictates high church versus low church.
Yes.
And the difference is not necessarily in what actions they do. Right, every church does communion. Every church does baptism to some capacity. Every church does marriage. Every church does blah, 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 blah. What ends up differentiating them is that high church traditions call them sacraments. Low church traditions call them ordinances. The best way in which I know how to explain to you the difference, let me explain the academic way. Sacraments impart grace.
Mm-hmm.
The act of participating in the Eucharistic meal is an impartation of grace. Being baptized has a part to play in your salvation. Mm-hmm. Some people would say the largest part in your salvation.
Yeah.
That's a sacrament. The other people, the low church people, would call them ordinances or memorials. Do this in remembrance of me. If you've ever been to a Baptist church that has a communion table, that's a memorial. And I use that language because it's the best way to understand the difference. Mm-hmm. Let's use the Eucharist as the example.
Go ahead.
Clayton, what's the difference between a funeral service and a memorial service for someone who's died?
The presence of a body.
The presence of the body. What makes and what doesn't?
What makes what?
Yeah, what makes... Yeah, so how does the presence of the body impact? Which one is which?
Funeral is presence of the body. Memorial is not.
There you go. That's the difference in the sacrament. In the Eucharist, the bread is the body. The body of Jesus is present in the bread.
Mm-hmm.
In a memorial, it's not present. It's just a memorial. That's the main difference. It's really not that hard. And if I can be honest, it's kind of a stupid argument.
It is kind of a stupid argument.
I mean, does it matter? Because nobody's saying you can't do it. Nobody's saying you shouldn't do it. People are doing it a little different, right? Some people use wine. Some people use unleavened bread. Some people use leavened bread. Some people dunk. Some people pour over. Some people do infant baptism.
Yeah.
But, like, it's really a stupid argument.
Some people pour sand in glass for their, like,
for the
metaphor.
union. Some people do the unity candle. We did a unity cross with my ex-wife.
There's all different kinds of things.
Yeah. The 3 strands of a rope. I've seen that before.
But all of this that we're naming, lots of this is like low church traditions. That sounds very liturgical. Like very high church.
Well, because everybody has a liturgy.
Everybody has a liturgy.
That's the deal. That's what I want you to walk away with. Is like, if we're talking about high church and low church, it's really not as simple as
It's really not.
any of this. But we're trying. The other main difference between high church and low church that we really need to talk about is polity. Clayton, do you know the main differences in the polity? You spent some time in the Catholic Church, and you spent a lot of time in the low white evangelical Baptist church. What's the difference, my guy?
There's very little that's actually different. If we can,
So in the way in which, okay,
if we can really just call this shit out, it's really not that different.
the way it functions in any of these places is the pastor runs that place.
The pastor runs that place, and there's some dude that's over him that's controlling something.
Usually.
And then
Some kind of entity.
Yeah, and then there's some kind of entity above him that's controlling that until it gets to the top. It's really not that different. It's an institution.
But how are the constitutions written?
So, I guess
Because
lower
there is a
churches-
very big difference in, there is something that happens in Baptist and low church traditions that does not happen in the Catholic Church.
freedom of expression, the whole like, what is it? Autonomous
Cooperation.
cooperation.
But that
That would be different from the Catholic Church.
slightly. In practice, probably not.
No, probably not in practice.
The
but
main
in doctrine,
difference.
yes. Polity.
Oh. The main difference is the same main difference we see between America and dictatorships. The vote, bro. The church vote. The church business meeting that you hated your entire life.
You're talking about the democratic process that happens within lower church traditions. That's a fair point.
The vote. The vote. You will never catch people voting in the Catholic Church.
No, you see it more in like an oligarchy type thing with the cardinals, but you don't see it on an individual church level.
A member,
like parish level.
Yeah, a parishioner who is frequent at that congregation never gets a right to vote on how the church is conducted.
They're just kind of told what they need to do.
That's true in a high church tradition. That is not true in a low church tradition.
That is fair.
That's the other main difference. That is absolutely the other main difference. And those low church people love that. Because they're against hierarchy, which you've been around WellHouse very long. I'm against hierarchy.
They're against anything that's not Catholic or anything that is Catholic.
Anything Catholic or remotely close to Catholicism.
So if there's anybody in some sort of structural power that's telling them something, they're automatically going to question it.
It's true. It's very true. So, the polity is another big piece of it that matters. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier about the liturgy, but the other big thing that needs to be brought out is the way in which they think about and conduct worship. High church, it is a much more reverent experience.
Yeah.
It's a much more like holy and sacred experience until it's time to party. and then it's not. All bets are off then. But
It's true.
also, low church people, they're more likely to turn the worship service into a party. The worship service is much more laid back. In a Catholic service or in a high church service, the majority of the time is not taken up by someone lecturing you.
No.
It's taken up by other interactive practices that they want you doing.
Very imagery based, a lot of it.
A lot of vivid, a lot of engagement of a lot of different senses for you.
Mm-hmm.
In a low church tradition, the only senses that are going to be engaged are your ears and your sight.
And depending on the church, even your sight. You might just be watching some old people standing up there singing.
Or, some middle-aged man on a screen.
Yeah. It really just depends, but largely they want you to hear and listen to what's happening.
Yeah, whereas in a high church tradition, most of the time, at some point in the service, they'll have some kind of candle lighting or some kind of something.
Incense, something.
Correct. Something that will invoke some kind of smell. You will almost always take communion. It's rare in a high church that you don't take communion.
I don't know of one that you don't. Even at funerals, they take communion.
Yeah. And at most high churches, you end up on the
Kneeling
in prayer, and so you get a touch element. Mm-hmm. No. Low church traditions spend all their time with music and singing and then getting preached at. High church traditions don't do that. They're a much more interactive service. You will have singing, and you will have, but see, here's the other part. They don't even call them sermons.
No, they're homilies.
They're homilies. And what's the difference between a sermon and a homily, Clayton? Do you even know the answer to this?
It's not the main piece like that.
Nope, that's not even the difference.
Oh.
Time.
Oh, okay.
Literally, a homily can't be longer than 15 minutes.
Yeah. So what you do is technically a homily.
That's right. That's why I say, in practice, we seem pretty low church. But in function and actual, premises, we are absolutely high church. Because I also consider myself to be a sacramentalist. Yeah. But hell, I believe in the variant impartations of grace.
Right.
So
we also don't do communion or the Eucharist in a traditional way either. We do that by our morning breakfast that we have together.
Yeah.
Which is very like Acts 2 type thing.
Yeah.
Which is very different than than the conversations that we're having right now.
That's a conversation for next week.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's pick that conversation up next week.
I'm sorry.
Thanks for listening to the Pints and Perspectives podcast hosted by WellHouse Church. Be sure to give us a rating and a review if you enjoyed the episode. It's free and it helps us immensely. Also, feel free to check out our other podcasts.